Hi and welcome back to this YouTube channel and my eBay sellers account, GB Hatchery. Today I have a simulation specific video. This is Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's running excellent on my 3080 Ti with a 5600X CPU, 32 gigs of RAM, and it's just really nice on the Reverb G2. Now I played it on other systems. I have a lower spec system. It runs not as well, but you get the impression of the entire simulation, and it's fantastic on both. But what I found here is with these settings, I'm getting almost half of the frame rate of the Reverb G2, which is 90 Hertz. A lot of times, as you can see right now, it's at 40, but depending on how the cloud cover and different things like that, it can go up to 45 and beyond. So when it gets close to 45 or 45 and beyond, it's a very smooth experience because it's directly half. So every other frame it gets a new update, and it really comes off as it really looks smooth in comparison to some of the other times I've ran it. Now I've actually played this as low as 12 and 15 frames per second on a lower spec system, and the CPU kind of got me going here, and then the 3080 Ti definitely was the icing on the cake. But as you can see, I'm just in an ultralight. This is the top rudder ultralight. That's something where you could either get a computer or you could get an ultralight. So it's nice to get the computer and the ultralight, both. And so that's what I've done here. But one of my favorite aircraft is the SubSonex. Before this even came out, I was totally blown away by the SubSonex. I'm going to fly this SubSonex now. Just, you know, it's only like 15 bucks or something, and it's just an awesome little private jet. It's like an ultralight private jet. I think it might be light sport. The specifics on it I'm not 100% sure, but it has a TJ100 turbo jet on the back. It's not a fan, it's just the jet portion only. And I think it's a little bit much for the airframe. It's positive G's only, negative G's are kind of bad for it. You'll find that out in the simulation. But as you can see, this is live weather. It's a beautiful day here in Michigan. And so I think I'm just going to hop right into SubSonex and take it for a spin. Alright, so here we are in the SubSonex. I have my settings so that you can see the glass. I've had the settings in different ways, but I really have the settings really nice for this SubSonex. I have a couple keys here. This one is the trim. I'll set that down a little bit. That's about where I want that. It's pretty much ready to go, but I do want to turn the smoke on, so I have a switch. They are going to put motion control soon on this program from what I hear, so that's going to be pretty cool. But right now I'm just using a stick, a flight stick. Now this thing's a little squirrely getting off the ground. You kind of got to get the nose light or else it'll move back and forth a bunch. And you can actually end up feeling like you crashed it, because you did. But okay, so now it's getting squirrely. I'm going to start pulling up a little bit to get that nose light. Otherwise it'll start wagging. There we go. Getting off the ground. I can tell I'm holding a good frame rate. You can see it in the headset. It's pretty decently smooth. Would I like 90? Heck yeah, and I can't wait for it. But this is pretty good. Anytime you hit half the refresh of a device, it really smooths things out. You can go quarter, but that's just not quite enough. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to take up the landing gear. You can hear them. So I'm going to try not to move my head around too much so that you can observe without having your neck torn off there. So here's the traffic. I'm able to turn the traffic on, live weather, other players, decent trees. The trees, if you put them on low, they look kind of bad. And they tend to change. They're like sprites only. And this is, I think, medium trees, and I think it's high clouds, and medium or low textures. As you can see, the textures are low, but I'm able to get the 40 frames that I want, 45. So that's kind of a give and take. I can put this on ultra and get 30 frames a second. Now when you're diving with this, it's really slippery, and that jet will just keep pushing you, because even when it's on low, it's at 50%. Like I put it here. You have to unlock something down here to go below 50%. I've watched some of the real videos of people that own this jet, and they have to undo something to get it below 50. And I think that's because the spin up below 50 might be kind of slow. I'm not sure, like, don't quote me on that. But I can't see any other reason to keep it above 50. Maybe that's what you need to stay in the air. I don't know. But I kind of watch my airspeed. When it gets in the yellow, I kind of try to back off some. So I just went through some power lines. So when you get down close to the ground, the details kind of go down no matter what. This is kind of an AI produced game or simulation. The ground level is kind of produced by Google Maps and whatever it can figure out without having a person go in there and start clicking and things. So you can see the graphics update because it's probably drawing for a mile or so. I got to go underneath these power lines. It's probably drawing for quite a while, and I'm only seeing right here. But once you get up off the ground, you'll be glad it drew all that because then you can see it. But as you can see, these are floating a little bit. I mean, there's improvements that could be made, but considering the scope of this game, it's just amazing. And it's almost a habit to call it a game. I don't think that does it justice, personally. This is a full-on simulation. Now, sometimes these traffic cars and trucks are actually closer to the ground. Seems like it's a crapshoot a little bit. But I do like to go down the highway. It depends on which highway you're looking at. This game, it has photorealistic, like topography AI. What do they call it? There's a name for it. It pops up and says ignore it, or it can't keep up because of your bandwidth. It's like these trees down here. They need to update those houses. You'll get that now and again. It's not real often. In fact, it's kind of making a liar out of me a little bit, just with low detail there. But you can see we're back to good detail. It's like a little park or something right here. Nice little lake. Looks like there's a business in the background there. Some nice clouds. So you can put the details up on the houses if you want to, and they'll look a little bit better. But look at that view. Getting right up into the clouds.
Detroit approach November 141 Sierra Juliet. Request clearance to transition Bravo airspace. November 141 Sierra Juliet Detroit approach. Cleared through the Bravo airspace. Cleared through Bravo airspace 1 Sierra Juliet.
So this is a positive G, four positive G airplane. I would not, if I owned this, I wouldn't take it to 4 Gs. I don't know how many times it said I've completely ruined the aircraft. Going upside down and then pushing forward on the stick or something, and it just says you overstressed the aircraft, and I believe it. In fact, there was a gentleman, I don't know if he wants me to be bringing him up on the internet. He's passed now, or his family, but a person did actually pass in this jet. They were doing some maneuvers over a lake, I guess, and I guess he was inverted. That's what the FAA slip says, that, you know, when they take some information about the accident. But the gentleman was 75 years old. I don't know him personally, but I just read about it. I saw his picture. 75, that's a good, ripe, old age, you know, probably done quite a few things. And if you ended up in a subsonics, I'd say you did pretty well. But I don't want to make this video about that person. It's just, that's one of the people I know of that has had a fatal crash in this jet. And it was inverted flying from reports that saw him flying that day over the lake. 127.5 for 1 Sierra Juliet. So we'll just take the opportunity to go through here. Whoa, yeah. So there's like a nice little sand pad back there. You'd be surprised what you can see up here. Sometimes I want to go to whatever, try to figure out where I am on Google Earth, and then, you know, just look up information about the area, because you see things that you in the air that you normally don't see. You'll see golf courses you didn't know were there. You'll see little horse tracks in people's backyards. just really neat things that you didn't know existed because there's no sign. But when you're in the air, you see it, you know. I took a flight back from Halifax, like by Maryland or something over there. And on the way back, I just saw so many neat little lakes.
November 141 Sierra Juliet, Detroit approach altimeter 30.00 continue as planned.
Now the graphics are low right there. I don't know why that is so low. Usually there's more detail, but it looks like it's lowering. It could be possibly because of the server. So it's that park a lot of times I've been here before and it looked a little bit better, but I'm not complaining. You know, I have my smoke still in the air and the trees look good, but it can vary. It's possible I would need to go in there and turn textures up, but again, at 45 frames, I just don't really care. It's like I've seen it at 30 frames on Ultra and it looks wonderful, but the frame rate makes an immersion difference. And if you just look at where you're flying and take the general input, it's more enjoyable to me. And I've watched some other videos of YouTubers saying the same thing after I got it to this point. I got it to this point, and then I started putting 45 frames per second, and I found other people that had kind of come to that conclusion as well with their equipment, 3080s and whatnot. Yeah, anytime the nose is toward the ground, I try to turn the motor off. And it's still at 50%.
November 141 Sierra Juliet, 3,500 feet. November 141 Sierra Juliet, Cleveland Center altimeter 30.00, continue as planned. 1 Sierra Juliet, contact Detroit approach on 127.5. Good day.
Well, yeah, the reflection on the glass is like medium cockpit. These guys are just going off on the radio. Should turn them off. I think that's me talking. That's like my virtual call-outs. But I'm doing so much that they would say stop. They would say come land, you're causing problems and we're going to take your license. So that's one nice thing about these simulations is there's things you can do without answering to anybody. You can go up and, you know, wag the wings or, you know, go inverted for a minute and you don't have to talk to anybody. For some reason, I feel bad. I almost want to restart the video because the quality on the textures is so low. Usually that you can see like buildings and things. Like they have the textures like on ultra low. I wonder if I could change that real quick. Usually it's on medium. I don't know. That seems like super ultra low. Yeah, this little keyboard. Let's see about that. So I'll just show you my settings right now for graphics. What I did is I got into Steam and I put the super sampling just a hair above the 2160 by 2160 here. It's like 2400 by 2400 or so, 22 by 24, because every time it has to super sample, it has to, the PC has to think about that pixel. So I wanted the least amount of pixels, just a hair above this headset's resolution. And then the render scaling here, as you can see, is 2189 by 2144. And I was actually going just a hair under 2160. I was going like 2000 by 2000, but the aliasing is just really bad. So at 70%, I'm getting 2189 by 2144, so that's like just a hair over and just a hair under the actual resolution of the headset. And so I do get some aliasing, but it's not too bad. It's not super sampled. At 30 frames per second, I can super sample on Ultra, and it looks wonderful. But you look over your shoulder, and it's going by in cookie cutters, you know. So I actually think it looks better like this. So here we have the TAA anti-aliasing, helps a ton. Terrain level of detail 200, off-screen terrain pre-caching on low, terrain vector data low. I'll try to stop moving my head around here. Buildings on high, trees on medium. I do like nice buildings, I gotta be honest with you, because you can see like solar panels on some of them, and they put the little dog houses on top. and just some details that makes it look a little bit more believable. Sometimes it just looks like a train set where somebody bought the same building and opened 1,000 packages and put them out and said there's a city, you know. So this, with the buildings on high, it kind of makes it look a little bit nicer. The trees on medium, anything lower than mediums, I didn't like the trees. I didn't care what the performance hit was. They were changing so much that it made it look like some kind of display or something. Grass and bushes on medium. Objects level of detail is at 100. Now that seems to be, it says higher values will improve visual quality but may affect performance. So there's two of these. There's the objects level of detail, and then there's the terrain level. The terrain level is how far, that's like draw distance basically, and I like a long draw distance, although I could turn that down. Volumetric clouds on ultra. I'm a big time clouds person. Like, I've gone up and the clouds will affect performance. In fact, it might be trading clouds for the textures. The textures on the ground are very low, and they're highly anti-aliased, and it looks like an N64 right now for some reason. But it's possible that it's telling. It might be moving things around. Okay, he's got a ton of clouds today. Let's move the textures down. Texture resolution low. So I'm going to bump this up to medium. Let's see what that does. It might want me to reset. If so, I'm not going to. Anisotropic filtering, texture super sampling. I'm not doing that. These are all low now. Texture synthesis, water waves on low. I've turned them up before. It does look nicer. Not by a whole lot when your frame rate drops a ton. So I was trying to figure out where I could get some shadow maps, terrain shadows, contact shadows. I like shadows. You can turn shadows, I think, off, but it just doesn't look right with the shadows off. Early morning, even with low shadows, I was going to come out here earlier, but this is like 9-10 a.m. But when there's shadows on all the buildings and trees, it really gives a sense of reality, and it looks like a little train set. In fact, I may do another video just to show that off. Windshield effects on ultra. I mean, you get freezing, and a lot of times they're off. So when you're freezing, you're only going to see the frozen window anyway. So put it on ultra, in my opinion. Also, you get rain effects going over when it's raining. And I don't care how many frames a second you're getting when it's raining and you have rain effects. That increases immersion in reality so much. And also, I get like a reflection of all my instruments here, and it really gives a sense that this is here. When you have that off, you can't even tell there's a windshield here. It looks like I have the door open or something. Ambient occlusion on low. You know, that helps with the shadows look kind of in the corners to get dark. It's on low. It doesn't need to be any higher, but it's good to have it. I think you can turn it off, but that really, it takes away. So I have it on low. Ray marched reflections on low. I don't know. Light shafts on low. Bloom, I guess it's on. I think that's when things are in your face. Lens bloom. And then we have glass cockpit refresh rate. It's on low, but it looks fine. I don't see that it looks that low. So yeah, those are my settings for VR, and these trump all of the PC settings. When you put these on, this is what matters in VR. And so if you can get, I know some people, they go into like OpenXR and they change things there. I think that's basically the equivalent of going into Steam and turning that down, because what that does is it says only worry about these pixels. Don't go, because if you have this render scaling down in the game, then it's going to have a lot less pixels it's trying to do, and then you have it taking 2 pixels on the headset side to read 1 pixel. You're going to say, I'll look here, I'll look here, I'll look here, I'll look here, but it's like, hey, there's only 1 pixel here, there's only 1 pixel there. So you tell it only look here, only look here, only look here, and let's make a pixel here, here, and here, and it's way more efficient. When it's super sampled, it's looking for more, but you're not giving it more with the render scaling down. It doesn't have any more information. So even though it might look a little bit better, I don't think it's worth it having it look so hard. And I've had a lot of experience with this with like Vorpex. If you just try to make everything as efficient as possible, you can get the frame rate up and things can actually look really nice. So it's things that it could probably figure out on its own if you had some kind of AI settings deal. But you know, a lot of this is personal preference and taste. So you know, some people would just never ever have the textures on low that I had there. So I had them on low. Let's do a medium. If it'll do it, it might want me to restart. Okay, no, it has them. So let's see what that does.
Good day.
It's a good day.
127.541 Sierra
Let's set
Juliet.
this down real quick. There we
Detroit
go.
approach November 141 Sierra Juliet at 5,000.
So maybe the little areas will look a little more detailed now. This thing will break over 200 miles an hour, so I got to pull up now. See that yellow? There we are. I'm going to pull up gently.
1 Sierra Juliet, contact Detroit approach on 132.35. Good day.
Yeah, it still looks low.
132.35.
It must just be a low texture day. They might have a lot of people playing right now, I don't know. But it's not ruined. The general impression is the same. It might just be giving the bandwidth to the clouds, like I was saying. But back to flying. I try not to move my head around too much. I've watched these videos before, and when people start yanking their head around, it makes you want to stop watching. So, but it's hard when you're in VR. You have total freedom, and you can whip your head around, and much like real life. And you'll see pilots whipping their heads around big time, especially in a jet, because things are happening so fast. Now I've flown the BD5 as well. I should turn that lady off. But
Cleared through Bravo airspace 1 Sierra Juliet.
I do like this game because of the civilian aircraft. See, now I'm getting up in the red. I'm surprised I had to go real easy, and it would have totally ripped the wings off if I hadn't.
132.35 Sierra Juliet. Detroit approach November 141 Sierra.
Every once in a while, it'll, even though you're upside down, it'll stall the other way, and I think that's because of the torque of the motor. It pushes it back over. It's kind of odd. It might be a problem with the simulation, but you know, it is it is just a simulation. So I'm sure it just comes down to a table of numbers at some point. But my, what a simulation it is! And I really like it because there's basically all civilian aircraft. There are some military aircraft they're bringing in, and I don't know if they have guns or what, but you know, I think airplanes are beautiful and they are used in war a lot, but civilian aircraft are my preference. I like that better than the weaponry carrying aircraft and military aircraft. Nothing against them. Like I like the A-10. I like the F-16. I will fly them. In fact, there is one here, but any aircraft I'm going to end up flying is going to be a civilian aircraft. So this is really the dream for me. And what's nice is you get the view. You get up here and you see the clouds. You see the loop you just made. You see your wing, and it's all in 3D, and it's represented very professionally. Like this, I'm not sure how much money. It'd be nice to know how much money Microsoft paid for a Sobo to make this, and if it's a labor of love or if this is truly a profitable thing. It's possible this is a lot easier than I think it would be, but honestly, this looks phenomenal, and it just boggles my mind that math is resolving this. And there's so much there. It's just ridiculous to me. And I've really been enjoying it. This is really, it's really a time to get into VR. If anybody is like on the fence about VR, and you know, obviously you want to get your feet wet before you go all in, but you know, I haven't been disappointed. I kind of went all in. I did before, like 4 years ago. We've got a bunch. Every 4 years I get to itch to upgrade, but we were doing the PS4 Pro with the VR, and I was hoping for Xbox VR, but they kind of mentioned it once and then quit. As you can see the view from up here, where are we at? 7,000, 8,000 feet. I was going to say RPM. No, those are feet. 8,000 feet. That's a different airplane. So this thing will run out of fuel. You can see I have the fuel gauge here. And it says 14 flaps. Flaps are at 0. 100%. Got brakes. Strobe lights. You can change the screen. There is a little button right here. And then you get a different kind of, what do they call these? Like a GPS navigation. Aeronautical, what do they call this? Avionics. I just got used to this one. But wow, this area is just spotted with lakes. That's crazy. Look like freckles. So like tail spins up. Carpet diameter. I don't know.
126.75 Sierra Juliet.
So the G2, I like it a lot. The screen is really nice. It's about what you would imagine. It's a few more lines. You can just about guess what it's going to look like by how many more lines it has, because that's what it looks like. If you don't have it. If you have one of the 1700 by 1400s, it's quite a bit crisper and it looks nicer. It needs that much more performance. It needs that much more of a computer. It's everything you could possibly guess. Answer is yes, you know. And as far as comfort, I don't think it's that comfortable. A lot of people say, wow, G2 is so comfortable. Their face must be just made for it, you know. But for me to get it to look right, like right now I feel comfortable, but I've put it on my face a few times where when I got it to the sweet spot, it kind of left like my nose hurting. There wasn't enough room for it. And like my cheeks felt weird, and you know, all it has is these straps, and then you have Velcro here, so you got to adjust it every time. And if you have other people with you, there's no just quick dial it in. I don't really recommend it for kids. It doesn't fit kids very well. The best one for kids, honestly, is PSVR. You know, I have like, if you have between a 3 and an 8-year-old, they can both use a PSVR. Anybody older than that, it's easily going to be able to use it. This one, you have to put a towel behind their head. Now, my kids don't play a lot of VR. Not hours and hours, but every once in a while, if I'm playing, they want to stick their head in there. I'm not going to tell them no. So, and then they play a little Beat Saber on PSVR. So, but it's not necessarily, in my opinion. Now, that's just my opinion. The most comfortable headset. It kind of gets to my nose, and I don't have a huge nose, so I can imagine if my nose was huge. So they're personal. You got to try them on. This one actually has a head gasket, like a face gasket for my face, and it's possibly changing the way it's fitting my face. But the other gasket feels right about the same. I do have the Vive, and it does seem possibly a little bit more comfortable. I don't know, you kind of feel like you put your head into a movie theater with the Vive. You just, I don't know, it just really, it's a little bit heavier and it sits. But for what I'm doing, I have no complaints here. My eyes are really close to it. I have you can see things popping in out there. So, there's the highway. The other day, the cars were stopped on the highway, so I was assuming that there was a traffic jam. It was about 5 or 6 p.m. So there's some things that are kept up on here with, I think it's Bing Maps or something. I forgot what maps they're using, but they're using some kind of database of live maps and weather. And I really like that because you can set the weather how you want. But look at over there. It's clear over there. There's high-level clouds. But then over here, we have thick clouds coming in. And you just can't create that. I mean, you can in general settings. You can say live weather off, and then tell it, okay, I want high level clouds and that. But it's just like a blanket. And this is more, you know, it's live and it's a lot more dynamic. So this is the view from 17,000 feet. Now, I watched a video of a guy that owns one of these. He's like a magazine owner, editor, or something. Kit Planes or something, I don't know, but he was up at 17,000 feet, and he says this is where they fly with this. They get up to 17,000 feet, and for fuel's sake, I guess. I don't know. But the thing is, I'm not going very fast, but I'm climbing. Let's see what happens when I start climbing. Leveled out, going 140. It seems like these airplanes, you would think the higher you go, the faster they go, but they actually slow down. With less atmosphere, they have less to work with. And some, just layman's thought process would say, what happens? I don't know. I don't think I would make an assumption, but thinner atmosphere, less to burn. If you ever done RC hobby planes, a lot of times, look at the shine off that lake over there, like the river. That's really cool when you have a lot of lakes and the moon or anything like that, or the sun, and it'll spot into the lakes. It looks so cool. And then a sunset, come out here and there's a sunset. There's another, it looks like a big airport right there. But I lost my train of thought here. That's not good to do. Yeah, document my losing my train of thought here. It's so beautiful that it will make you lose your train of thought. Because you have to fly an aircraft and you can't tell stories. So there's two airports over there. There's a huge one and then there's a smaller one over there. It's amazing the higher you go. The atmosphere is thinner, and the hobby airplanes with like the small nitro fuel, like the little two-strokes, they actually work better in the cold. So if you go out in the wintertime and it's cold out, the air is more dense and they'll burn more. There's another over there. Is that 3? No, that's the same one. Okay. It's nice you get up here and they have that light and that draws your attention. Sometimes I intentionally go up and then try to emergency land somewhere before my fuel tank is out, see how far I can go. But in a thinner atmosphere situation, it seems like you slow down. And every plane's like that. You go up, you have to change your mixture on some of the older aircraft. Something like this, it just slows down. It has less air to lift the wings, less density, less air for oxygen. There's that little lake I was at down there. Wow, look at that. And now I'm at 20,000 feet. So I could wing over and go straight down, but I'd probably rip the wings off this thing. So you kind of got to wing over and watch how fast you're going, because
Cleveland Center, November 141 Sierra Juliet. Request clearance to transition.
I'm gonna die. I need to pull the flaps up. Sometimes the flaps will act like speed brakes. That was about as close to ripping the wings off as you can get.
Cleveland Center, November 141 Sierra Juliet at 17,700 feet. 126.7541 Sierra Juliet.
There's my contrails.
141 Sierra Juliet at 17,000 feet.
So this ends up looking like a little bit of a glider ride. You ever seen those people on YouTube with their gliders? They do this kind of flight path.
November 141 Sierra Juliet at 17,800 feet.
I think they can be pretty graceful, and they can take a lot of G's, because they're normally just made out of carbon fiber, and the good kind.
118.90541 Sierra Juliet. Detroit approach November 141 Sierra Juliet at 17,100 feet.
So this is a really healthy outlet for anybody that's an aircraft flight buff that just likes the concept, and I think that applies to a lot of people. You don't see too many people that are not proud to get onto a jumbo jet and fly across the country. Maybe they would down and say, well, I'm not impressed because I'm so good or whatever, but I've always loved flight. I used to make a lot of models as a kid. And if I could see this at that time, you're sitting there with stick and tissue and butyrate dope and rubber bands and stuff. If you could have saw this at that time and said, that's coming, you'd have been pretty happy 12-year-old, you know. Look at that, bow tie in the sky. Now I am turning on the turbine here and climbing. I don't know why. I don't think I should be, but
Cleveland Center, November 141 Sierra Juliet.
it's making it hard to lose altitude. I suppose I should just turn it off. I turn it off when I go down because it'll rip the
Going
wings
to
off.
126.751 Sierra Juliet. Cleveland Center, November 141.
But this is the fun of the simulator right here.
10,900 feet.
And the air traffic controllers have a heck of a time keeping up with me.
118.951 Sierra Juliet. To Detroit approach November 141 Sierra Juliet.
So this is a 3080 Ti 3000 series GPU, but you know, in another year and a half, 2 years, they're going to come out with even better GPUs. It might hit a portion where it's 67 to 70 frames per second. It might not be a full 90, and it might almost be better for me, personally, to just stay at 45 until I know for sure I can get 90. Because in between, it just feels in between the refresh rate.
Cleared through Bravo airspace 1 Sierra Juliet.
So we'll see what this Lovelace has from NVIDIA and see what kind of prices and availability they have.
1 Sierra Juliet. Cleveland Center, November 141 Sierra
But the
Juliet.
technology is amazing. It just boggles my mind. This GPU has 32 billion
Cleveland Center, November 141
transistors,
Sierra Juliet. Request clearance to transition
and it's made on a
Bravo
machine. They call it an EUV
airspace. Cleared through Bravo airspace 1
lithograph or
Sierra
something,
Juliet.
made in the Netherlands, I believe. And they sell them off to companies like Samsung or whatever, TSMC, and then they have the whole system that runs them all. I find it just mind-boggling that they can do that and it works. And now they're talking about Lovelace is going to be 5 nanometer, and it's going to be like 66 teraflop. This is supposed to be like 38 or something, or 40, I don't know, 44. But you know, you gotta wait until they come out to know what kind of performance increase it's going to be, because you just don't know. It can sound like it if you start counting up the stream processors, but this 3080 has 10,000 stream processors. My 2070 has 2,500. I don't know if it's a direct one-to-one on stream processors versus performance. There's a lot of variables. I basically just go on frames per second on something I know. Boot up one, see how many frames you get, boot up the other, see how many frames you get. And let that be the performance gauge. So we'll see. When the 4000s come out, we'll see. If people are getting 90 FPS in Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's going to be pretty tempting. Especially if I can get a decent price for this 3000 series. And depending on the crunch, I may be able to. And as you can see for miles. A lot of the people that are watching this video have this simulator, so you know, you've probably seen it, but it's really amazing. And you can play it on the Xbox as well, but VR is just a totally different animal. It's just a completely different experience, and it's really the only reason I stayed away from Xbox this time, is just so I could play flight simulators and racing simulations and not have to worry about if they decide they're going to do it, and if they decide they're going to patch something to get 4K or not. If I have the power to run 4K, I run 4K. So, but it just comes down to how often you play and how much it means to you. You know, otherwise it's not worth the money and the time of changing the settings. So where did that lake go? It's like I lost that lake. That kind of looks like it, but I don't think that's it. I'd be sad if I lost it. Could follow the contrails, but I think a lot of them have dissipated. See if I recognize any landmarks. That would help. Somebody's got a pool. Yeah, that's not it. There goes somebody flying pretty quick. Oh, there's the lake. There it is. We'll take the highway. Looks like this road goes right into it. For some reason it's on low res textures, like hugely low. Ridiculously low. I don't know why. Must be one of those days with the clouds. Yeah, those don't even look like buildings, they just look like heaps of triangles. Oh, it's alright. I'll do another video. It'll look better next time. But see, that's like a parking lot. We normally have buildings there. It's really low. I don't know. Photogrammetry. That's what we're talking about. Photogrammetry. Bandwidth can be low on their server, and then you have a hard time downloading the photogrammetry. But we'll let that pass today. I'm getting 45 frames in VR, and I'm recording, so... I actually use a second PC to record, so this is flat out performance, unabided. Gotta check how fast I'm going. Otherwise I wouldn't whip my head around so much. Up and at 'em. Stall the wrong way. So obviously that would get you a trip to jail. So that's what the nice thing about the simulators, you don't have to worry about it. And I think even people that own a subsonics, even people with a full hangar of aircraft would still enjoy this. In fact, you see that sometimes they'll put their N numbers as their screen name. You gotta wonder if Microsoft or some other entity could be watching you and see what you do in VR and kind of hold that against you, like, hey, I saw you out there flying, and you're kind of building bad habits. You go out there in your real airplane, and you might be thinking that's okay to do. I'm here to tell you, it's not. Look at the sun off the water. That's awesome. And the clouds. Okay, I'm gonna die. Oh, I died. Oh, I pressed forward on the stick. Alright, so that killed me. I was gonna turn around and land, but it's actually a good time to stop. As you can see, I'm sweating. A lot of times I put a fan, especially if it's an open air cockpit, I'll put a fan on, and then you get a sense of speed as well. I probably look silly, like I just came out of a dark theater with a treadmill or something, which essentially kind of, but anyway, that's the game. You've probably seen it before, but that's it in VR. It's really, really awesome. It's super fun. If you like, you can always visit my eBay store, GB Hatchery. I have a lot of used items there, maybe new in the future, but right now I have a lot of used items for sale. You can check out the link in the description. I might do some more videos on Microsoft Flight Simulator. That was a lot of fun. If you liked the video, give me a like, subscribe. Any kind of comment or anything like that would help a bunch. And other than that, I'll see you in the future. I hope you're safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.